When we meet someone for the first time, we're often asked, what do you do? The natural impulse is to give an answer based on what we do, our title, our job, or the product we sell. And while this answer might seem natural or even necessary, it misses an opportunity to connect on a deeper level. People aren't just interested in what we do, they're interested in why we do it. If you start by explaining the what, you're simply offering a list of facts. But when you start with the why, you invite the other person into a story that resonates on an emotional level. The core of this idea is simple. People don't make decisions based on facts, they make decisions based on emotions. Think about it. When you hear someone talk about their work with passion and excitement, it's not their job title that draws you in. It's the reason behind their work. It's the purpose, the belief, the driving force that compels them to get out of bed every morning and push through the challenges. This is what creates a true connection. When you begin with why, you speak to the part of the person that longs to feel connected to something bigger than themselves. What happens when you focus on what you do is that you essentially create a transaction, a simple exchange of information. You're telling the other person what you do, and they're either nodding or moving on. There's nothing emotionally engaging about this. But when you start with why, you invite curiosity. People begin to ask questions. They want to know more about why you're passionate, why it matters to you, why it could matter to them. This is when the conversation becomes dynamic and both people leave with something valuable. Consider the difference between telling someone you sell software and telling them that your mission is to make technology easier and more accessible for people who are not technologically savvy. The first is a functional description of your job, and while it might be accurate, it lacks the emotional draw to make anyone care. The second speaks to the heart. It speaks to a purpose, a belief in making life better, in solving a problem. It's this belief that people can connect with, and it's this belief that drives loyalty. When we start with why, we also create a sense of inspiration, not just information. Information fills the mind, but inspiration touches the heart. We don't just want to know what people do, we want to know why they do it. The why gives meaning to the what. It's the difference between a job and a mission. A mission creates a sense of belonging and excitement. It invites others to be part of something bigger than themselves, to join in making a difference. When you start with why, you're giving people the chance to feel that spark. Finally, starting with why changes the dynamic of how you present yourself and your work. You become someone people want to follow, not just someone they work with. Why? Because you have given them something to believe in. You've shifted the conversation from tasks and responsibilities to something that connects with human values. And when you lead with why, people don't just want to work with you, they want to support you because they believe in what you believe in. This is the foundation of leadership. It's not about telling people what to do, it's about inspiring them to do something that matters. When we describe what we do, we tend to focus on the details, the technicalities, the roles, the specific tasks that make up our job. It's easy to fall into the trap of listing these details because they seem concrete, clear, and tangible. Okay. But in doing so, we miss out on something far more powerful, the reason behind what we do. When you describe your job, you're essentially offering a set of facts, a technical breakdown of actions. However, when you talk about your belief, the deeper motivation that drives those actions, you connect with others on a level that goes beyond the surface. Belief is what drives passion. When you talk about what you believe in, you're sharing something that resonates on a much more emotional and human level than a mere description of your duties ever could. People don't remember facts and figures as much as they remember the feelings associated with them. When you describe your belief, you're giving others something they can relate to, something they can align with. That's how true connections are formed, not through transactional exchanges of information, but through shared values and common purpose. It's the belief in something bigger than yourself that stirs people to listen, to care, and even to take action. Think about the companies or leaders you admire most. It's rarely because of what they do, but because of why they do it. You may admire a company for its commitment to sustainability, or a leader for their dedication to empowering others. The details of what they sell or what their job title is are secondary. What grabs your attention is their belief system, the values that guide their decisions, the passion behind their actions. This belief doesn't just make them seem more human, it makes them more trustworthy. When people see that you're driven by a strong belief, They're more likely to follow your lead, support your cause, invest in your mission. When you focus on belief rather than description, you also create a sense of belonging. A description of what you do can make someone feel like an outsider, merely observing from the outside, but when you share your belief, you invite others to join you. You create an opportunity for them to be part of something larger than themselves. People are drawn to organizations, movements, and leaders that stand for something. They don't just want to be told what you do. They want to know why you do it. This is where belief transcends description, because it pulls people in, it makes them feel part of a greater purpose. Moreover, belief has the power to inspire. People may forget your job title or the specific tasks you outlined, but they will remember how you made them feel when you spoke about your purpose. Belief creates a vision that people can rally around. When you start with belief, you invite others to be part of your story, not as spectators, but as active participants. They want to know how they can contribute, how they can be involved, and how they can make a difference. This is the true power of belief over description. It inspires action. It turns mere listeners into active collaborators. Finally, belief is what gives people trust in you, even when the path forward is unclear. When you described what you do, it's easy for someone to say, "Ugh, that's nice, but I don't need that," or "I don't see how this benefits me." But when you focus on what you believe in, you speak to their own values, their own desires, you make it about something more than just a transaction. You make it personal. And when people feel that what you do aligns with what they care about, trust begins to grow. Trust is not built on facts, it's built on belief. Belief connects, belief inspires, and belief has the power to build lasting relationships based on shared values and mutual understanding. When we think about decision making, we often assume that people make choices based purely on facts, logic, and reason. We believe that if we provide enough information, present the numbers, and break things down into clear, rational points, others will follow our lead. But the truth is, decisions are often made not with the head, but with the heart. People follow feelings, not facts. It's the emotional resonance of an idea, a vision, or a belief that drives action, not just the data behind it. Consider the times when you've made a decision that didn't necessarily make sense on paper. Maybe you chose to invest in a product not because it was the most affordable or the most effective, but because you believed in the company's mission or because the message they shared resonated deeply with you. It wasn't the cold facts or the comparison charts that convinced you, it was the emotional connection you felt. This emotional connection is what drives people to act, whether they realize it or not. We are hardwired to follow what makes us feel inspired, safe, or aligned with our values, far more than what makes logical sense. This is why great leaders and successful brands don't just focus on what they do or how they do it. They focus on how they make people feel. Think about your favorite brands or the leaders you admire. More than likely, it's not because of the specific features of their product or service, but because of how they made you feel. Maybe it's the feeling of empowerment or the sense that they share your values or the belief that their work has a greater purpose. It's that feeling that sticks with you long after you've forgotten the fine details of what they actually offer. These feelings are what people connect with, and they are the reason people become loyal followers, customers, or supporters. Feelings are powerful because they bypass logic. When you speak to someone's emotions, you tap into something deeper, something that can't be easily dismissed or debated. Think about how difficult it is to argue with someone's feelings. If someone tells you they love a product or a company because it makes them feel a certain way, there is little you can do to dissuade them with facts. Feelings are personal, and they shape the way we see the world. They influence how we process information, and they often override the cold, hard facts that are presented to us. This is why facts alone are rarely enough to inspire loyalty or spark a true connection. When people feel something, they are more likely to act. This is why sales pitches and leadership strategies that focus solely on logic often fall short. It's not about presenting data or proving a point. It's about making people feel something. That feeling is what drives them to take action, whether it's purchasing a product, joining a movement, or following a leader. The action comes from the emotional pull, not the intellectual persuasion. The best leaders understand this, and they know that connecting with people emotionally is the key to creating lasting impact. Feelings also build trust, because they create authenticity. When you lead with your emotions, your values, and your purpose, you invite others to feel that sense of authenticity. People can sense when something is genuine, when it's rooted in belief rather than in a sales pitch or a calculated move. When you speak from the heart, you invite trust. This is why relationships, whether personal or professional, are based on feelings of trust and emotional connection. The facts might change, but how you make someone feel has a lasting impact. In the end, people remember not the specifics, but how they felt in that moment. And that feeling is what will guide them back to you time and time again. Information is valuable, and it's certainly necessary in certain contexts. We need data, facts, and clarity to understand the world around us and make informed decisions. However, information alone is rarely enough to motivate, inspire, or create lasting change. And this is because while information fills the mind, inspiration fills the heart. Inspiration has the power to move people beyond just thinking and into doing. It connects people to a purpose, a vision, or a cause, and this connection drives action in ways that raw data never could. Think about a time when you were truly moved by something, whether it was a powerful speech, a song, a movie, or even a person. It wasn't the facts or figures that left an impression on you, it was the way you felt, the way your emotions were stirred. Information might give you the knowledge of how something works, but inspiration gives you the drive to do something with that knowledge. When you're inspired, you don't just understand something intellectually, you feel it deeply, and that feeling propels you into action. Inspiration makes things feel possible, exciting, and worth pursuing even. When the path forward is challenging, this is the difference between being informed and being inspired. We live in an age where information is abundant. We can access data at the touch of a button, and we're constantly bombarded with facts, statistics, and updates. But despite this, how many times have you walked away from a meeting or a presentation full of information but feeling uninspired or unchanged? Information, while important, often lacks the emotional pull that compels people to act. It's one thing to know what to do, it's another thing to feel moved enough to actually do it. That emotional engagement is what inspiration provides. And it's that emotional engagement that drives people to commit to a cause, a goal, or a movement. Inspiration doesn't just change minds, it changes hearts. When people are inspired, they are moved by something beyond just logic. They are moved by the belief, the passion, and the energy that the speaker or leader is radiating. It's that energy that creates a sense of urgency, a sense of meaning, and a sense of belonging. People are not looking for information in isolation, they are looking for meaning. They want to know why it matters, why they should care, and how it aligns with their own value. This is why inspiration beats information, because it connects on a deeper, more human level. It answers the questions that people really have. Why is this important to me, and why should I care? When you inspire people, you invite them to be part of something bigger than themselves. Information can often feel impersonal. Facts and numbers are just things to be understood, processed, and stored. But inspiration invites participation. It creates a sense of community, a sense of ownership, and a sense of contribution. When you lead with inspiration, you are offering others a chance to be part of a shared vision, a movement, or a mission. This shared belief is what bonds people together and pushes them toward a common goal. Information may inform someone, but inspiration empowers them to act, to take ownership, and to feel part of something meaningful. The key to understanding the power of inspiration is recognizing that it taps into our deepest desires, our desire for purpose, for connection, and for impact. While information can provide answers, it's inspiration that sparks the will to seek those answers in the first place. It's inspiration that drives people to change, to improve, and to overcome obstacles. The best leaders, the best movements, and the best companies understand this dynamic. They don't just focus on delivering information, they focus on delivering inspiration. They know that people are motivated by meaning, not just by facts. They understand that true progress comes when people are moved by something they believe in, not just something they understand. In the end, information is important, but it's inspiration that creates momentum. Facts and figures alone don't compel people to act. It's the belief that something greater is possible, that change is achievable, that action matters, and that it's worth fighting for. This is why inspiration always beats information. Because inspiration feels passion, and passion